There are two things that are very important to the human beings of today. One, we know of elections, and the other is the well-being of the majority of the people. And at the same time, everybody agrees on two things. One, elections are not productive. And on the other side, the well-being of the majority of the people is gradually collapsing. Take a minute to think about this. If the welfare of the majority of the people is gradually collapsing, disintegrating, and our votes aren't able to bring back the pieces together, then there's something wrong with our vote. Two things should preoccupy us. First, maybe we don't vote massively. But if we vote massively and things don't get any better, it means some voters are weak enough to push their votes into the right direction. Nevertheless, some people say it is our civic duty to vote massively. Yes, but do we keep voting massively even when we know that some of our votes fall in the wrong hands and we are certain that the outcome will be ruinous? The importance of vote can be linked to the importance of water or food that we eat in order to sustain our body. In as much as our society really needs votes for growth and prosperity, so is our body that needs water and food. Now, let's try to link the importance of a vote to a society to that of water to the body. The fact that our body cannot do without water doesn't mean it needs just any kind of water. If our vote is as dirty and corrupt as this water fetched from the tap, a well, or a stagnant pool, then it is equally our fundamental right or civic duty not to consume such water, because instead of expecting a healthy body, I'm afraid cholera and other related diseases might govern our body. This is exactly what an adulterated vote and a voting system can do to our society. When we have post-electoral violence that results to loss of life, destruction of property, or putting rebels at the disposal of weapons, or rapes, just to name these few, then it is a clear mark that our votes have failed, flagrantly failed, to yield the kind of fruit that we expected from them, or from these votes. If we vote for peace and it turns to be violence, it means our vote was not strong enough to bring peace. If we vote to have good drinking water and the outcome is the contrary, then we have to question our vote. If our vote transforms our hope for an affordable and quality education to a corrupt and worthless one, of good roads to bad ones, and of good medical facilities to poor ones, then we still have to question our vote again. If our votes bring shortage of food, insecurity, corruption, then again we still have to question our vote. So, building a healthy society doesn't just mean voting massively and always. It means voting a meaningful and powerful vote, putting the vote in the right hands to put on the right rails. But for elections to be run and managed properly, a lot of things come into play. If a vote is to be compared to a seed of corn, then it should be put in the hands of a cultivator and not a pilot. The reason why we sow a corn seed is because during harvest season, we expect to gather enough corn which will serve not only as food to the body, but as a source of income to educate our children, give them good medical checkups, and a shelter, which are some of the rights clearly defined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But Moving from a grain of corn to a basin of corn, there is an intermediary. That intermediary is the soil. For a grain of corn or a seed of corn to be transformed to a basin, this is what plays the role. It's like an electoral or election management body. The soil can be equated to an electoral setup, which starts with voters registration, elections supervision, elections management, and the declaration of the results. So planting a corn seed in a gravel soil would only help destroy our lonely and hopeful seed, and will only guarantee a hunger-stricken, miserable, and a future hallmarked by the abuse of human rights. So, as farmers, we should be careful when we are offered gravel soil. Again, it is our civic right, civic duty, guided by our wisdom, to identify or use fertilizers or other techniques to enhance soil fertility before we risk our seeds. Even after planting our seed, we should be able to water our plantation, treat it regularly by spraying against certain plant-infested diseases. Before you think of sowing your seed, make sure you are guaranteed with all these. That is, a fertile soil, water can and water for watering crops, spray, etc., etc., in order to ensure an outstanding harvest. That said, if our electoral system is to our votes like a gravel soil to our corn seed, then we shouldn't take the risk to vote. It's better to keep your corn seed and make an effort to have a fertile ground. Before you sow your seed, you must verify the soil. If you sow on a bad soil, you will definitely waste your seed, energy, and time. This will simply transform you into a vulnerable citizen. And vulnerable citizens build a vulnerable society. And vulnerable societies or cities make a vulnerable town. And vulnerable towns build a vulnerable nation, a vulnerable continent, and a vulnerable world. Casting your vote to reap post-electoral violence that leads to loss of lives, destruction of property, is not very different from the misuse of power. Some people think we need to take the risk and vote. But my friends, this isn't any risk taking. It's a suicide mission. The days of ignorance have passed. This is time for dialogue, discussion, constructive ideas, the power of ideas, and not the ideas of power. If you work hard and suffer, it means you're doing the wrong kind of work. If you vote massively and things don't change, it means you voted the wrong kind of vote. Change your vote. Don't change people. That is why we reform democracy.